Live. Okay. Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and we have a guest tonight. We have Justine from um, New Hampshire in the city of Rochester,
Yes.
Rochester, New Hampshire, who's going to be our guest tonight to talk about CPS. She will talk in a few minutes. I'm going to explain what you're in this room for. First of all, you have found the podcast, Fight CPS and Stop Taking Our Children. CPS stands for Child Protection System. That's what I call the agency of social services that protects our children from neglect and abuse, and also help out families with help from social services like food and medical and clothing and so forth. Also, they're supposed to bring the family back together after they pull it apart. Sadly, too many families are taken apart on false allegations, and also the children were taken from them when they were not in extreme danger, and they're put right away into foster care. So, um, there are four ways to interact with this podcast. One way is simple. All you have to do is you're in the room to sit and listen and take notes. Sit and listen and take notes. You can use emojis because I'm broadcast on YouTube using the StreamYard application. So you can put in happy faces and thumbs up and hearts of love and so forth if things are going the way you like it. So that's the first way. The second way is that you're going to uh, maybe uh, text in a question or a comment about the child protection system, the CPS. And it's very important you do a couple things when you text in a comment because Justine and myself will try to answer your question as best as possible. Now I put on the screen now, when typing in the comments or your questions, it should pertain to CPS. It's very important that we restrict our conversation to only child protection system. So something that deals with that is where the comments or questions should be. Now, a lot of people that come in, um, their name already shows, but some people have changed the name or have a different name, and it's not really a name, it's kind of a statement or a saying. Please, if you don't have a common name like Mary, Betty, or Louise, or whatever your real name is, please show it because I don't want to call you by some of these things like magical moments, illusion in the Nile River. That's very hard to call someone those names. So, anyway, state your first name. I don't need your last name. It also preferable you say your city, state, or country. And right away, you hear the word country. Yes, this podcast goes around the world. Justine, you're now seen by at least 13 countries or more because that's how many countries have text in comments. So now you're worldwide famous.
Oh, good.
Justine, Justine is now around the world. Now, Justine, when I say country, so far we've had Bangladesh, we've had New Delhi, India, we've had the continent of Africa. We've had three or four countries there. We've had the province in South Africa, the one that is on the west side of South Africa. And I forgot the name of it. I need to start memorizing that. We
Yeah,
have,
I heard you naming them off earlier in the
yeah, we have
yeah.
Mozambique, which is above South Africa, across from Madagascar on the east side of Africa. And then we have Rwanda, which
Rwanda.
is Central East Africa near Lake Lake Victoria. And the thing about Rwanda that people may or may not know that in 1994, 1 million people were slaughtered, murdered, and wiped out in Rwanda due to civil war. Also, 500,000 women or females were raped. Young children, young female children, older female, they were raped out and they were tried to exterminate the race of people in that country by infecting them with AIDS. Men that had AIDS would rape the women, and they hoped that they would get AIDS and they would die off. So it was an unbelievable experience there. But a person has text in from Rwanda that says things are better, and they talked about CPS issues there. Now we move up to Europe, and I've had England, Scotland, and Wales text a message in. They're all part of the United Kingdom. And then I've had Denmark and Sweden also text messages. Now we go across the pond to North America, and I've had Canada, both coasts, that have text messages. I've had all the 50 states, things like the Rosebud Reservation where the Lakota Sioux live. I've had Maine and Massachusetts. Tonight we have a guest from New Hampshire. So every 50 state has either text a message or called in, including Washington, D.C. I had a woman on that show that was raped twice, once at a new housing development, and she was befriended by a child. She was asking for help with groceries, gave him $5, and he and his friends came upstairs and raped her. And then she was put in police custody, and her child was taken from her, and she was raped again at the hotel that they're putting these people in. So Washington, D.C. is a very corrupt place, and she was fighting to get her child back through no fault of her own, no fault of her own. And so now we can leave the states alone. I've had 2 social workers call in, one from Maryland and another one from Indiana. And they one was a third party from Indiana. The other one was a social worker, and she had a clinical psychology degree, and supposedly she had 6 months of training with Maryland. And they talked for about 40 minutes. It was great to hear their side of the story. They were shocked at what I was talking about, CPS being so corrupt and so bad. But anyway, I like to talk to more social workers and people with success stories. So now we go further south to Mexico. I've had a father down there who actually called in from Mexico and wanted to find his 2 daughters in Louisiana. And then we go further south to South America, and I had Guyana, which is north of Brazil, east of Venezuela, and they're on the coast, and their coastal town is Georgetown. So they called in texting a question about CPS. And now we go across the South Pacific, and we go to the land down under, and we're at Australia. And with Australia, we had some people there. Oh, Faye said Nigeria. I didn't know Nigeria had text a message from me. But there was a group or country that text, but it's all in Arabic. So it's a Middle Eastern country. So I don't think Nigeria has called in yet. She had a question mark by that. It's Rwanda, Mozambique, Liberia, and the province in South Africa. Anyway, we had from Australia. So with that being said, those are the countries, and they're free to come in here and text. I like to help them out too. All I ask is you be complete with your Child Protection System case, your CPS case. What I mean by being complete, and whether you text in or call in, it's like it's done in a couple parts. The first part, I like to know, what is your family makeup? Are you husband, wife? Are you boyfriend, girlfriend? Are you lovers? Or maybe you're a partnership. And are both parents involved with the children? Are both parents? Are you a single parent? And furthermore, what are the ages of the children and the sexes of the children? And then I like to know the allegations, whether it was neglect or abuse or both, and a little detail about the allegations. Further, I want to know how your child was trafficked into foster care, how they were trafficked into foster care. Was it they domestic violence, and they had to come in to stop the hurt to the child? Or was it you just opened the door, they were there, and you invited them in? And or you were told to come down to the office and turn your children in. Now that's really important to hear all that, because my rule number 4 is you never let social workers or police in your home. And you never talk to them. It's always yes, no answers. That's my rule. And that's in your 4th Amendment. That's in your 4th Amendment. It's just like I say, there's only 3 ways they get in. Either you give them permission, there's domestic violence, or there's a court order, a warrant. And that warrant's got to be very specific and very real. Like it needs to be signed, and it needs to be a proper signature, and all the information contained in the warrant. It's got to be your name, your partner's name, your wife's name, or your husband's name, and then the children's name, the allegations, and then further, it's got to be the address that you're at, and then the date and time that they're going to come and visit you, and what they can do. Can they talk to you? Can they take your child away? Can they search your home? So those are the things is. And so lastly, tell me where you're at on your case. That would help me. We're getting there, Justine, almost finished. The third
It's okay,
way,
you're fine.
the third way that you can interact with this podcast is be a guest, such as Justine is doing tonight. To be a guest on my podcast. And I want to welcome the Health Mommy Vlogs. Health Mommy, do you have a typical name like Nikki, Mary, Bill, Mom? I mean, that is really a hard name to call you, Healthy Mommy Vlogs. And she had a question. Where did you learn to practice law? I'm not a lawyer. I am a father, a loving father of 6 grown children. And I've been married for 31 years. And I was... Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I apologize. I had some outside interference. And with all due respect, the Healthy Mommy Vlogs, I'm still doing my introduction of my show. And it's Christy and Payne. Okay, Christy Payne. Glad to meet you, Christy Payne. And what part of the world are you from? You must have missed my part about saying your city, state, or country you're located. Oh, yes. I had a bad case of CPS. I know from firsthand experience. I had my 3 younger children ripped from me. I had my daughter taken from me permanently. And I'll go and talk about that. So I know CPS through and through. I've been there. I've been fighting them for 15 years. And they had my children for 3 years. And before that, I've been fighting them all for 5 years. So I've researched and know all about CPS, whether you're in Maine or whether you're in Arizona. So that's great. And Mr. Davis is a good attorney, and I'm glad you are talking to him. He is a dependency, family, juvenile attorney, and he's excellent attorney with 35 years of experience. And I'm glad you've been talking to him. He'll give you great legal advice. But what I'm talking to you is not costing you any money. I'm not asking for any money, and I'm not charging you any money. So I'm glad that you're in the room. Now, I got to finish up so I can get Justine started. With all due respect, Christy Payne. Okay, now to schedule a guest, this is the third way, is all you do is write an email to my show producer. My show producer, her name is Grace. She does a really good job behind the scenes and helps me do my podcast. And if you write an email to her, she will help you be a guest on my podcast. I'd love to have you. Her email is Grace at vincentwdavis.com. It's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. It's there on the screen. I have it up there. Now, I'm on 14 times a week. That's 7 days a week, twice a day. And I've been doing this since October of 2023. And I've talked to over 500 some people. So I do have a wealth of knowledge to share with y'all and 5 rules that I talk about. And I have about 50 tabs opened up that will help talk to you about things. Now, so you just pick it. I am broadcasting at 10 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time, and again at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule. On Sundays, I start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have a family commitment after 8 o'clock that I like to be with my family. And then on certain times of the week, I have different times. Like this past week, I had a seminar I went to, so I started 15 minutes early and left 15 minutes later. I also have a commitment with my son on Thursdays. Football season has turned in around again, and me and my wife want to go watch the football game and do the football activities. So on this Thursday, I will be starting at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That's for this Thursday only. So it's an early podcast. So pick my podcast, email it to Grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's the third way. Now, the fourth way is I have a phone number that you can actually call in and talk to me on the phone. And my cell number is 626-698-0990. Now, that is my work number. It goes to my phone. I use Vonage, which is a live stream phone application. And I put the speakerphone on, and you can talk to me and Justine, and we can try to help your questions. So with that said, there are 4 ways that you can be a part of this podcast. First way is just by listening and taking notes. The second way is to text comments to me. The third way is to be a guest. And the last way is to call me. So the phone line is open now. So if you want to call in, you can call in and I can take your call. Okay? So, Justine, I want to warmly welcome you again. You said you're from Rochester, New Hampshire. Would you like to talk about your case, or did you have a comment to say, or do you have a question?
Maybe a little bit of like all of it.
Okay.
It's been going on for my middle son is 15 years old. So it's been going on for about that long. My ex-husband, when I left him for like reasons that, it's like reasons that you wouldn't stay in a relationship for per se. And like the day that I did that, he decided to go the route of like keeping my son from me in like any way, shape, or form that like he was able to do that. Like at the time I wish I knew that like he was out filing like ex partes and all that stuff. And, like I didn't know that back then. If I only knew now what I knew back then. So all this time is going on, and it's a back and forth game of like, like seeing my son and this and that, and he's using an address that I have not like lived at for a long time. I don't even think the house is there anymore at that time. Like that's where he was having my mail sent. Like if he files something, I get notified. You have to get notified if they're filing something. So, all that went on, and like for years, and because he had made me look like just not nice on paper. And if you're not like filing anything, or you're not like reacting to everything that's filed, it shows you just being at a not doing anything at all. So that's how it looked. He abused my son when he was like 6.5 years old.
Okay.
Yes, that's when well, like it didn't start there. It's like it had been started, but when he was 6 years old, the daycare that he was at became aware of it.
Okay. Now, I
And
have a quick question to ask you.
sure.
Were you a husband and wife in the beginning?
Yes.
You were legally married. Okay. And how
Yes.
many total children did you and your husband have?
We have two.
Okay. And of those two children, and you were legally married, um,
It's jumbled bad.
yeah, I have Faye, who's joined us. She's one of the listeners in the room. She's on the phone. I should introduce everybody to Faye. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, and she's a single mom. She has been through a lot as a foster child. It was unbelievable the stuff that she went through. But she got married, and because she was in foster care as a young child, CPS went after her. She lost her 5-year-old daughter, and right now she's trying to gain custody. She's trying to gain guardianship of her son, who's 23. He has a special needs. She needs to take care of him for the life. So she's helped me with my show, but she's listening in the background, and she can make comments because she's on the phone.
Okay.
So anyway, you and your husband. Now, do you have any other children of anybody else?
Yes, my oldest is going to be 18.
So were you married before your husband?
No.
So you had a child before your husband?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you have a child before you got married, and then when you got married, you had two children. And you said one's a boy. What's the other one?
They're both boys. I have 3 boys.
Okay, you have 3 boys. Great. Now, is the father, well, the 18-year-old we don't have to worry about anymore because he's an adult. But are the other 2 boys, is the father still involved with them, or is he now split?
Well, no. No. They actually, this is where like it's going to be like, what? They are actually, well, my middle son who's 15 is not in the home. He is now in the care of DCYF.
Now, I assume DCIF is the CPS, I mean the
Yes.
Child Protection System. They
Yes,
call
it's the
in
same.
New Hampshire as DCY. So
Yeah.
that stands for Department of Children and Youth.
Yes. Department of Children, Youth, Families.
Oh, DCF.
DCYF, yeah. It's the same thing as
DCIF, Department of
Children.
Department of Children
and Family Use. Yeah, it's the same exact thing as CPS.
Right. Okay. I just use CPS because every state's got their own things. Like in Arizona, it's called.
Yeah, I like CPS too. I'll just use CPS.
So I just use CPS. It's okay, Justine. So I'm trying to understand. I'm also trying to help, and I'm trying to let our listeners listen in because we have somebody right now from Virginia who is named Christy Payne, who's been working with my attorney, Vincent Davis, about her case. And she's now from Los Angeles. So I did not know that. Sorry, Christy. So I have right now, I have one person on the phone. I have you as my guest, and I have one person making comments, and I have 10 people in the room. So we got a pretty big crowd there. Now, Faye said her comment just showed up, or maybe I missed it. I'm going to put it on the screen for a second. Faye made this note that this podcast is an educational and awareness podcast for suggestions, advice to help people navigate their cases and help them gain knowledge to help them to fight for their kids back. That's well said, Faye. Thank you for coming up with
Yes.
that. That is well said, because I don't want people to be misunderstood. I know that the other girl from Los Angeles was confused. She thought I was a lawyer, and I do know the law, and I know the laws to get myself in trouble. But I'm not going to steer you wrong, because I'm going to tell you what worked for me may work for you. So we have 10 people in the room not saying anything. We got Christy Payne from Los Angeles, who I guess she was something with Virginia. I don't know if her case. She says a fight in court. She asked, "Where did I learn to practice law? What year did you last fight in court?" My case in court was the year 2015. It started in 2010, and I was married, and unfortunately, I lost a job through no fault of my own. I was 60 years old. Then in 2017, 2015, my children were kidnapped and trafficked into foster care, and they weren't in imminent danger. And so what they do is they try to alienate you, as someone here in the room has said, is that they try to turn. I think you were telling me that, Justine, that your boys are trying to make you look bad. Your husband's trying to make you look bad. That's called alienation. That's against the law.
Oh
Trafficking
no.
is against the law too.
Yes, yes. He has made me look bad, and the even worse part about it is that, are you ready for this? That for years, CPS was right behind him, enabling his behavior. They were like teaming up. And then, and if that's not enough, right? He went and then decided to get a job in the department of DHHS right in there. And they gave him an office. And he started the good dads gang. He was helping dads who were, like in recovery from drugs and all that, just any sort of recovery, to be a better dad, or to this or that. But, and I'm like, when I heard all this, I go, how can you sit there and, like, want to help this dad or the next dad to be a better dad when you are, um, you're mentally, physically, and emotionally, like, you have harmed your own son. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yes, I
then
do. Yes, I do.
it is disgusting. I've been doing this for 15 years, and it's just it's kind of ruined my life, like, honestly. Like, I've been suffering mentally, emotionally. I You know what I mean? Like, I've just
I
it's a
agree.
lot.
I've
It's a
been
lot.
there. My whole
Right.
family's life's been ruined. My children
Yeah.
have been abused by foster care. My two boys are struggling. Now, one of them is doing good. He's my youngest. But my daughter was taken from me from a revenge of a social worker. There are 4 cases of social worker. There are probably more out there I could talk about. But the first one, I'd like to share this with you and everybody in the room, are the Pink Ladies. They're a group of 8 social workers from Prescott, Arizona. And they had 25 years of working in social services, supposedly protecting the kids from neglect and abuse. Well, they decided one day to get pink T-shirts and have stenciled on the front, "Professional Child Kidnappers." That was put on the front of the T-shirt, and on the back they put, "Do you know where your children are at? Do you know where your children are at?"
I can't.
And they paraded around at Costco, Walmart, Target, Best Buys. And the look on parents' face was horrified. "Professional child kidnappers. Do you know where your children are at?" Well, they were caught and they were fired, as well as the director of the child protection system there in
Where was
Arizona,
this?
in Prescott, Arizona, in the year 2022. You go to the internet, look up 2022,
Yeah.
type in Prescott, Arizona, the Pink Ladies. And they'll come up with pictures of them parading around and what happened to them.
Wow.
And you'll be horrified, as I was and other people have told the story to. So your typical social worker are professional child kidnappers. That's what your social workers are. And they'll do anything to alienate. There are two kinds of behaviors that are illegal. One, you do not traffic children into foster care. I don't care if you're using the guise that you're trying to protect them. That's not true at all. Two, you do not um, um, parade around and say you're a professional child kid. You do not alienate them. I meant to say alienate them. They'll do the alienation in court proceedings. The social workers will alienate you. Husbands and wife that go through divorce will try to alienate you from the children. It's really, 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 really bad. So I'm telling you, that's one example of social workers. Another social worker was in Chicago, Illinois, and she had a Facebook page. She proudly said that she's a social worker. Well, she decided one day to put the ad on her Facebook page, and the ad was over 140 years ago or 100 years ago. It came out before the Civil War. It came out in 1848, 10 years before the Civil War. And on the ad, I've lost you, Justine. Did we lose connection?
No. I'm right here. I'll be right back.
Okay. And so we, she placed this ad very proudly on her Facebook page. And okay. Okay, welcome back. So this ad was circulating on her Facebook. My question about this ad, it's the year 2024. Why is this social worker placing an ad on this webpage, on her webpage? Why was she placing that ad? And so, with that being said, I couldn't get the answer from that one. Faye did talk to her, and maybe Faye could explain. She's in the room now. She's off the phone, but maybe Faye can type in what she found out from talking to the social worker, because that social worker is black. So why would a black woman that works for social services in Chicago, Illinois, put an ad up, black children for sale, black children for sale? The ad actually said the N-word, but I can't say it on YouTube or Facebook. The N-word is what was on the ad. In those days, in the 1848, you could say the N-word, but today it's not acceptable. So it was black children for sale. What relationship did that have to do with the year 2024? Faye, are you hearing me right now? You want to comment on that? By the way, the phone is wide open. I have nobody else on the phone. And so that was the second example. Now, you're probably wondering about my own case. I had an example of a social worker in her early 20s. She has no college degree, no experience in social work, no license, and here she is entrusted with families to do reunification and do investigation. And this social worker was awful. All she thought about was her Gucci purse, her eye makeup, her eyelashes, her accessories, her clothing, her BMW car, because she was paid bonuses for keeping the children in trafficking into foster care. You see, you have to understand, the child protection system is a $1 trillion business, not billion, not million, but trillions of dollars. There are over 400,000 children being investigated a year. 400,000. That's 500,000 children. And of that, I would say 80% of them are in custody. And each county is being paid $20,000 per child per month. I had 3 children in there. That was $60,000 per month. If you had 100 family with 3 children in it, that's $6 million a month. So it's $1 trillion business. They're in there to make money. They're not to be your friend. They're not going to help you get out of your situation. They're going to be on you all the time. And nothing hurts more when you have lay people that report false allegations. Lay people. Because there's 2 kinds of people who report allegations: professionals and lay people. And lay people were ones that reported me. They were my in-laws, my wife's family. They were trying to destroy us and take her children. They were trying to destroy us. They didn't come to our wedding. They didn't support our marriage. They didn't support our relationship. And when you have those kinds of people, it's hard. It is hard. So you have to understand is that this social worker of ours was being asked during the proceedings of the court case. And what had happened is that my wife's sister got the brainstorm idea to want to adopt our daughter. Our daughter is beautiful. She's well behaved. She's well educated. And she was 12 years at the time. And she was doing her best to want to adopt her and a husband. But we were against that. So I had hired an attorney, and I was late. I'd hired Mr. Vincent Davis. And he was interrogating the social worker and asking the social worker, was there any domestic violence with you guys, with the parents, with my wife's sister and husband? And the social worker very proudly says, no, they're good parents. There's no domestic violence. Well, my attorney, Vincent Davis, Mr. Davis, opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder, and in the folder was 1-inch thick documents of legal documents from police reports that supported that they had a tremendous amount. It wasn't 10 or 15, it was hundreds of reports of serious domestic violence, physical domestic violence that my wife's sister and husband were doing with each other. So is that a safe environment? Well, the social worker got mud on her face, lowered her head, and she later told us parents, you're never going to see your daughter. And you know what? She retaliated. What she did is that she told our daughter at 12 years of age, you're going to emancipate yourself from your family. That means you're going to divorce your mother, your father, your brothers, your 2 brothers, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, and your cousins. You're going to change your name, which she did. You're going to seal your birth certificate because it shows you're not with us anymore. And then you're going to get adopted by foster care, and they'll give you a new certificate. So that's what they did. The social worker deliberately did that as retaliation. So those are the kind of thinking of social workers. And I told the 2 social workers on my show, one was a couple months ago, one was about a month ago. And they were horrified to hear that story because that's the truth. I'm talking from firsthand knowledge. So social workers can't be trusted. And if that case doesn't make you sick to your stomach, there's another one where a mother, Christine, and she's been on her show and so forth, had a case going on where CPS was investigating her son molesting her daughter. So the investigator from the CPS went to the daughter's school. She was only 13 at the time. The investigator went to school to interview students. They're allowed to do that, but in California, you have to call and have your parents present at the school, not in the same room, but present at the school, because they did the same thing to my wife and me. So this investigator told the school he wanted a private room with this 13-year-old girl. Well, no one knew that he was a pedophile. So he told her to take off her clothes so he could take pictures of and show where the boy that was molesting her or trying to rape her or doing whatever. He was a pervert. He's a pedophile, and he worked for the child protection system. And the daughter came home horrified at 13 years old, being exposed to a gross man, looking at her nude body. That was wrong. And the mother, rightfully so, called the social workers and they investigated and he was fired. But it doesn't stop there with retaliation. What happened is that this social worker had a friend they've known since childhood. Well, his friend of his retaliated, changed the story, and then accused the mother of molesting her son. And she's been going through a hard time about that. Now, Faye is just answering my question about the social worker that put up the ad of the black children for sale. She said when she talked to the social worker, she told Faye she was only trying to bring awareness. I don't know what awareness is of black children for sale because, first of all, we don't use the N-word anymore. We don't use the N-word. That is a gross word. People use it out of anger. Black people use it as well as white people use it. But thank you, Faye, for explaining that. But there are hundreds of stories I could tell you, Justine, so I know what you're going through. I know firsthand. And anybody else that's listening here, I know firsthand. So now that your husband's doing all this stuff behind the scenes and coerce your older son to make you look bad.
No.
Oh.
He didn't do that. Like he somehow, I'm not sure how he did it, but I'm sure it was manipulation and all that stuff because he's quite the narcissist, the whole 9 yards for that. But my son, like through the years, he was there. You know what I mean? He saw what was going on. He saw firsthand what was going on. And as much as his father, lied to him or, knew, okay, well, I have to, tell him something because he sees this or he heard that, or I've got to think of an explanation to let my son know why, or this or that's going on. So, for all the years, like I said, my son was there. He saw it all. But, he always knew, and like the times that I have, spent with him, he always reassured me, even as a young child. And it was amazing to me, like how brave and smart, that my son was. He would always reassure me that, Mommy, I love you. And and he would literally tell me all the good about me is because of you, Mom. That's where I get all that from, because anything from my dad, all I know is anger. I don't know how to have a conversation without getting upset. I can't control myself. I'm angry. But you are a good person and I love you and you're my mom and all the good about me, and there's a lot of good about me and I know there is, but I'm so angry and I'm upset. But I want you to know, Mom, that I love you and I know that you love me back, and I know that you aren't trying to leave me, or you're not, not in my life because you don't want to be in my life. Because, like I had mentioned earlier, my ex-husband was filing all kinds of papers and I had no idea he was doing that. So that led to me missing on court dates, many of them important ones. So, all this time, and it's been some time now, they won't tell me anything. I hear from this or that, or, oh, I saw your ex-husband out with your son. And, like Father's Day, for example, a few years ago, they went out to a restaurant, in the area up north. And my ex-husband was drunk because he's an alcoholic. He's a bad alcoholic. And when he gets drunk, he gets angry.
All right.
And they happened to see something. He was being mean and aggressive towards my children. So the person that was there that saw this is like a mutual friend of mine and my ex-husband's, and they were concerned. So they made a phone call, and they called the police department in the town that they lived in, and they said, well, I want to do a welfare check, for when, like the father gets home, with the children. Mind you, he owns a restaurant, in the area where he lives as well. So the officer said, sure, that's fine. But if you feel like the child is in danger in any way, you should definitely get on the phone with DHHS and report it as well. So they did that. The cops went out there. There was a welfare check that went on. They spoke with my son one at a time in individual rooms by themselves, and they decided to say, or wanted to say, that they were okay. They didn't really feel the need to investigate anymore. But then CPS came out, and they're supposed to be trained. I don't care if you have kids. I don't care how old you are. I don't care. If you are going to sit there and you are going to label yourself as a CPS, DCYF, whatever worker for the state that is supposed to protect children and families, then you better have your ducks in a row and know what you're talking about. Because when you look at a child and they're supposed to train them for this, aren't they? You know what I mean? Like if they're alone with a child and they're asking them, are they safe in the home? How can you not tell when a child, and like I said, I don't care who you are. How can you not tell when a child is showing signs of scared? Like they're not saying what they want to say because they're scared. Right? So the worker decided to go on and call me, and update me about the situation. And I'm like, okay. I go, so, well, are you going to follow up on it? And she goes, no, I closed it. It's unfounded. I go, it's unfounded. I go, really? I go, okay. I go, what's this? That's maybe the 6th or 7th one at the time that has been reported against my ex-husband, not from me, but from the community. You know what I mean? Even in the town that he lived in, and that still resides, he still resides in, like I said, he owns a pizzeria. So, my son's friends and peers, worked at the pizzeria with Joseph, and they quit and left because they could not handle the verbal abuse, and that was just the verbal. That was just what he displayed in front of, you know what I mean? But he knew he can only go to a limit. So anyways, with the CPS lady, she decided to close the case out. And then I'm
Okay,
like, well,
question for you. I'm trying to recapitulate because I have a couple people in the room are confused. They've been writing. See, no one sees the comments, I don't think, in the room. I'm the only one that sees it. And I will post it if it's a pretty lengthy one there.
oh no, I see it. CPS.
Oh, you do see it.
Yeah,
Faye is
CPS
asking a question. Oh,
yeah.
that's because you are actually a guest. The people that are in the room listening do not see comments. You only see comments if you're a speaker or a guest. Like I'm the moderator, you're the guest, you will see the comments. And so she was trying to understand. She said that while she was on the phone, she couldn't hear very well, so she had to hang up. Sometimes if you're on the phone and listen to the room, it causes background noises and it isn't as clear. So she hung up. But it is a CPS case related. It is complicated. It is a custody case. It is.
Yeah.
Are you guys divorced?
Yes. Yeah, we're divorced.
So did you start out as a divorce or did you start off as a CPS? Which way did you start?
Well, when I left, we had a home in Maine, and when I left him, because like I said, things had, were going on that
it must have
nobody
started
could.
Off as a divorce, right?
Well, we separated.
Okay.
And
you
and
separated.
When I left, yes.
Now, when you guys separated, did you do a legal separation?
No, we didn't. Now, when I left,
Yeah,
we
let me
just
tell the
did.
listeners When you
Yeah.
do a separation, it's very important you do a legal separation because you need to make arrangements for the custody of the children. If you don't do a legal separation, then what happens is the husband or the wife may take advantage of the situation or cause problems. So, step number one, and I'm not trying to talk about divorce, but if you're going to do divorce, you have to think about the children and what's best for
Right.
the children. And you need that to be handled first. Too many people are angered and bitter and they want to
Yes.
divorce so quick. They don't want to work it out and they think it's too long. It's been going on too long and too much. But
You
I'm
need
telling
it.
you, is that it started off, you guys, started off as divorce, then it became a custody battle. Then that's when CPS was contacted during your divorce, right?
Well, see, it gets when I left him, we separated,
Okay, when
and
you did the separation, then when you filed the divorce, was the custody already taken care of?
no,
Okay, so
he
was CPS called during your divorce proceedings?
um he was on the phone with like the state every time I turned around. When I left him, I found out that I was going to have another child with him. So
Well,
when I left,
he must have been talking to CPS. Is that
he
what he
was.
was doing?
When I
Okay.
lived,
So
yeah,
whether you realize or not, he opened a child protection system case. So
yes, he
not
did.
only do you have a divorce going, first you started with legal separation, then you went to divorce, and then he decided to alienate the kids and retaliate against you by calling CPS. Well, that's the first step. That's a big mistake because all you do is hurt the children. You don't, it doesn't
Right.
help you, it doesn't help him. It doesn't, all it does is hurt the children because when you use allegations against each other in CPS case with an agency that's corrupt, not only is the CPS corrupt, but the police is. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
if police was involved in your case or not, but
No,
every
not
time
really.
I hear a CPS case, they would do that. So when you did your separation, where were the children? With him or you?
Well, when I left him, I found out that I was going to have another child with him, my third son. And we were already separated. I didn't know, like when I left him, I did
I
not know I
understand
was
that.
pregnant.
When you said, "Honey, I want to leave," did the children come with you, or did you leave the children
Oh,
behind?
well, we worked out to have my middle son, it's the one that's 15 right now, you know, like on certain days. And me, like I said earlier,
So you
me
worked
think
out what's called a gentleman agreement, but he wasn't a
right.
gentleman.
No, and I shouldn't,
And
and I
he
wish
and
I knew.
you thought you had equal custody of the child. The mistake you
Right.
made again is you did not do it in court of law. And see,
And
that's
like,
why you get to work on that.
right. And I
So
know,
what he
like,
did, he took advantage of it. He must be a knowledge guy. He must be a wealthy guy. He probably got some advice of how to trick you and take revenge because he had an alcohol habit. The
oh, it was
alcohol
bad.
took a hold of him, made him, because at one time he probably was a good man, but otherwise
No,
you wouldn't marry
no,
him. Well, you
no.
never. Why do you marry
Well,
him?
well, I did not really know about the the like the abuse, the cheating, that like all that. I wasn't that just kind of like jumped out, and I
When
was
you
taking.
first were dating him, did you know he's an alcoholic?
He was like he eased into it. Like when I tell you this guy is really good at what he does, he is very good.
Well, I
After we
mean,
got
so he kept it a secret from you that he
he
had an
drank
alcohol
like
problem.
we like I had like like I had an occasional drink, with him, like we had some friends, like we would have like
Well,
you know
social drinking is acceptable. I'm not saying
right,
that's
that
a
and
bad
that's
thing.
and that's really as far as
So you
like
did not know until after the marriage what kind of man he was.
no, I didn't. And it just
Okay.
it
And
just
that's not your
happened.
fault. No one is born with that kind of sense. No one's born with a manual of how to date, a manual how to do marriage, a manual how to deal with CPS. I know that. It all comes from experience from family and friends. So you did your best. You're not at fault, ma'am. You're not at fault. You're a good mother, a loving mother, and you were supposedly believing that this marriage would work. but apparently he took advantage of all that. I think his demon was alcoholic,
Yeah.
and that was making him made some poor decisions. And so what he did, he took advantage of you. Meanwhile, you're going through things. You may have been naive. You didn't know what was going on, and suddenly you involved, or not you, but your husband involved the devil. CPS is the devil. They're not transparent. They're not your friend, and you never want to get them involved because they'll make your life like as they're doing now. They won't believe you. They're going to side with one parent or the other and make
And
your
they
life
sided with
miserable.
they
Am
have
I
sided with
reading you
him.
right, Justine? Am I reading you right?
Yeah. When like after we got married in Freiburg, Maine, and then we were renting to own a house in Brownfield, Maine, and I accidentally one day, like I had the day off, and I wasn't supposed to have the day off. Okay, it was right before I had my son. Okay, it was right before I had Joseph. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say names, but
Yes.
I was looking in the closet. I was just, I was doing like a spring, move around, like in a sense, like a cleaning, and I, like a shoebox fell off the top of the shelf. And what was in it, to my surprise, was child support. Like how they send you if you are the person that owes child support, they send you like the little, like
So
the little
he was
envelope.
married before.
No, no, listen. He told the state of Maine that I was an absent parent. Okay. No, I had already had my son. I had just had my son. That's what it was. He was probably like 3 months old, if that. He told the state of Maine I was an absent parent and I don't live in the house and I just left him and abandoned my son and him, and then decided to collect cash assistance. Mind you, he had two jobs. I had two jobs. Like, I worked my whole pregnancy. So he's receiving that money. We both have two jobs. Now, how did they not know what's going on? So I find the shoebox, right? And there's like
They don't know.
200.
They don't know. It's so corrupt that people are actually stealing from social services. They steal food stamps. They steal medical. They take identities on your social. Our whole government's corrupt, and I don't want to get into that lane. We don't have time tonight, but I
Right.
understand what you're going through there. I would like to mention I have about 2 minutes left before I have to end the podcast. That doesn't mean you can't talk on my next show. Okay?
I would love to.
Yeah, you can come back and finish your case. And
Sure.
by the way, these shows are recorded, and
Yep.
people can watch my show from 6 months ago, from 9 months ago, or from yesterday or this morning. My shows are in a video library, and there's lots of shows. I have my rules. I talk about my 5 rules. I do talk about different topics like ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. I talk about the 388 motion, which is a hearing that orders the judge to have a hearing so you can come before the judge with new evidence. So there's all kinds of goody stuff that I've researched and people have shared with me. Things like your case plan, what is meant by a case plan, whether to sign it or not sign it. There's a lot of things in there. So what I'm going to do right now, I am sorry, Justine, but I'm going to wrap up the show. I want to thank
It's
you from
fine.
all my heart, from Rochester, New Hampshire, to take your time to share your story. Your story is very complicated because it involves a lot of things. It involves a separation, a, divorce, a custody and child protection system, and some illegal behind the scenes of fake child support, fake social aid, or whatever he does. That man could be in vial with a lot of trouble by the law. But
And
I want
he's
to thank.
just still walking around doing
I
whatever he
know. Well,
wants. I
we'll
I don't get
eventually
it.
get there. But at first, I want to thank you again and hope you come tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock my
Okay.
time or
Sure.
7 o'clock tomorrow night. Now,
Okay.
I want to thank Dean Bartlett, who came in at 1 minute before 8 o'clock. Wait, do you sign the case plan? I don't know if she signed a case plan or not. We haven't had time for it.
No.
She
I
said
have
no.
not
She said
allowed
no,
them
which
to
is
present
good. Which is
anything in
good.
front of me
And
just
Dean, if
because
you could tell me your city and state. Faye is
I
from
don't.
Kentucky, Richmond, Kentucky. I thank her for calling. I thank her for listening to the room. I also want to thank um, um, Christy Payne from Los Angeles, and she had a case in Virginia that she was talking with my attorney Vincent Davis. So thank you for being in the room, and so thank you all for the other 10 people that were listening and sent me emojis. Thank you for the love and the thumbs up and everything. You guys are beautiful people. I care enough for you. That's why I'm doing this, is because I love you guys. So keep fighting against CPS. Remember, they're corrupt. So I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time. God bless you